All right, hello friends. Welcome to your brand new Mac computers. I'm sure you're very excited to finally be using these. Um, and I hope you realize how special this is. We're the only school in the entire district that has Mac labs. So you guys really are industry standard and leading the way compared to other schools. So these are brand new. We need to take care of them. So please do your best. No food, no drink anywhere near the computers. Okay. We want to keep the keyboards clean, um, window screen clean, mouse is clean, and hopefully we won't lose anything before the year's up. So welcome. Using a Mac is a little bit different than using a Windows computer, but you'll get used to it pretty quickly as you get started. Um, Things to remember on here um, is that this is going to be your desktop, just like on a Windows computer. So you'll notice as I've clicked here, up here on the top is going to be my main menu area. So for whatever program you're in will automatically be controlled by menus at the top of the screen up here. You got a huge screen, so it takes a little bit of getting used to remember to come back up here. But this will be where all the controls are. So for right now, I'm in my Finder. The Finder is also this little icon down here. So if I click on Finder, this is just how I organize and find my files, just like on a Windows computer. Now, if you notice at the bottom down here, this is my dashboard. So this has all of my programs that are currently running. So you can tell right now I've got, Google Chrome that's running right now. I'm not sure what that is. But if you have a program open, it will be down here. We've got iTunes and stuff like that. So this is also where we're going to find our programs. So if you go down here to this little launch pad, click on that, and this will open up all the programs that you have installed on the computer. On your mouse, you have a little ball that's on the top. So if you scroll back and forth using the ball, you will scroll between all of the different programs. So you'll notice a really cool thing about these computers is that we have a full Adobe suite set up. So we've got everything from Adobe Fireworks to After Effects, to Animate, to Photoshop, to Illustrator, to Lightroom, and everything in between. So we can really use these machines to do a lot of really cool stuff. For our introductory lesson, we're going to be using Photoshop. So go ahead and click on this PS logo right here. I'll click on the PS logo and you'll notice that it'll open up. And this is going to be my canvas. Now, if this is your first time opening up Photoshop, it might be a little bit different. It might ask you, what size you want to set your canvas and stuff, but you can exit out of that and just make sure you're where we are right here to get started. You'll notice at the top again, now that I'm in Photoshop, I have my full menu of files that are here. Now, to get started on our assignment, we're looking at the work of Barbara Kruger. Hopefully you think it's really cool and you got some inspiration, some ideas for what you want to do. You should have already taken a picture by now, and hopefully you've downloaded it to the computer. So I'm going to minimize this. On my desktop right here, I want to make sure I get a folder that has my name on it. So I'll make sure I'm in the Finder. If you're not in the Finder, just click on your desktop and it'll come back up. I can go to File and then New Folder, and it'll pop open a new folder. And for me, I just want to make sure to have my last name, and then I'll put Art 2 on here since I already have a Whedon Art folder. Now, something to remember as of now, we do not have the U drive on these computers, so anything that you save onto this computer is only going to be on this computer. That's the only way you'll be able to access it. So if you're saving stuff to the desktop, just remember what computer you're at, because you will not want to leave this computer because you won't be able to access your work. So I've got a folder here, Whedon Art, that I'm going to go ahead and open, and I want to drag and drop my photo that I have in there. Now my photo right now is in the downloads. So if I go over here to my downloads, which is right here, I click on that, and I can click on 77 more Finder, and I open it up. This is the photo that I'm going to use, and I'm going to drop it over. If I want to rename that photo, I'm just going to lightly double click here, and then it'll allow me to change the name of it. Okay, I'm going to exit out of this, and I'm going to go back to my Photoshop. So since I already have my file, which is right here, all I need to do is drag and drop into Photoshop. So I'm going to hold it, click it, and drag, and then it will open up in the Photoshop application. Okay. This sets, if you look over here on the right side, this is where our layers are going to be. So you see as I drop that in there, that becomes our background layer. Right now, it is locked, so there's not much that I can do with it. So we're going to want to unlock that layer. So if I just click on that, you'll notice that it unlocks. Now, everything that I do on top of this photo will create a new layer over here. So you'll definitely want to make sure to pay attention to what you're working on here in your layers. All right. So what's some of the first things that we can do? I think the first thing I'm going to do is crop my photo. Because maybe this is a little bit too big. It's got too much information, like my wife looking at me like I'm crazy right here. So I want to add some different stuff in here. So I'm going to go over here to this left menu. This is a lot of the tools we'll be working with as you're learning Photoshop. And I'm going to click on my crop tool. The crop tool is this little box looking thing with two V's on it. So click on the crop tool, and you notice that my crop tool is highlighted already. Now, at the original setting, I can crop this any way that I want to. So I can get kind of creative with how my format looks. If I want to adjust the size of the crop, I can click on the menu up here. This menu bar up here will be for whichever tool that I'm using. So you'll notice that it'll change a lot depending on the tool. So for cropping, I can look in here, and it's got all sorts of different ratios that I can use. So if I click on original ratio, you'll notice as I change it now, it's going to keep it in that same original ratio that the photograph was originally in. So maybe for this one, I want to do a square. So I'm going to click on the square, and you notice how big it is. It goes outside the bounds. So I'm going to need to make it smaller. I can click my picture and rearrange my picture. I think I'm just going to focus on the face because I have a beautiful face. So I'll just make sure that I get that face nice and center, nice and big. Get rid of that thumb a little bit. And maybe that's about what I want it to look like. So if I'm good with that crop, I can push enter, and bam, I have cropped my image. You may want to remember to turn off the crop, because if you stay on this, you might create some mistakes. So I generally keep it on the move tool. So I'll just put it right back there so I don't make any mistakes. Now, say I cropped it wrong and I want to go back and fix it. You can go up here to edit, and you can either step backward or you can do undo crop. The hotkey is going to be Command Z on that. So if I undo crop, it'll send me right back to where I was. I can also go to the edit and then redo that crop and put it right back there. Okay. So hopefully you guys, as we're doing this, you're following along on your computers. So you've got your image pulled up and you're kind of working in with these tools as we go. All right, to imitate the work of Barbara Kruger, we're going to go ahead and turn this photo into a black and white image. So several ways you can do that. I'm going to show you one of the easiest ways, and that's going to be over here on our menus over here. So if you look at the bottom, you have several different things right here. So we're going to look at this little half moon guy right here. And these are going to be fill or adjustment layers. So these are going to be layers that they'll put on top of the layer that I already have. So if I click on this and I pull that menu up, you'll see I have lots of different things that I can mess with. For right now, we're just going to do black and white. So I click on black and white, and bam, it changes it into black and white. You'll notice that it went ahead and created a new layer. So since that layer is on top, it affects my photo underneath it. Now, if I want to go back to color, I can click off of this and my color will come back. So if the eyeball's on, that means the layer is active. Now, one of the interesting things here, you might have noticed this, is that now we've got all these reds, yellows, greens, cyan, blues, and magentas that are up here. And you might say, well, I'm working in black and white. Why do I have all of these colors here? So what this will do is it will adjust the areas where you have that certain color. So for example, if I have reds right here, anywhere in my photograph that had reds, it will start to adjust. So you'll notice as I start to adjust it on my face a lot, it starts to adjust because I have a lot of red in my face. So you can kind of mess with these a little bit. I wouldn't go too crazy on this. Like if I turn my yellows down, you notice how my picture starts getting like really distorted, and you probably don't really want to do that on this one. So I would recommend not doing that, but you can kind of have fun with it and, you know, get some cool different tonal values and stuff out of your image. Once you're satisfied with it, like if I just want to leave it like this, what I want to do over here is I want to go ahead and combine these layers together. Here's a pro tip on the Mac. You technically do not have a right click button on the Mac, but a way that you can work around that is if you hold the control key. So if I hold the control key and then I click, then it'll pull up my different menus over here. Okay, but right now I want to combine these two layers together, so I'm actually going to hold the shift key. I'm going to highlight that layer, and then now I can do control and right click, and then I can go merge layers right here. That will merge them onto that one layer, and now anything that I put on top of this will no longer be affected by the black and white filter. Okay, so we've got our photo, we've cropped it, we've got it black and white. Now we're going to go ahead and start adding some text onto here. So your text tool is going to be over here again on the left hand menu. It's this T that's right here. I click on the T, and you can see that at the top it changes up here. So just like in Microsoft Office or Google Docs that you work in, you have control over how your letters look. So you might test out some of these different fonts. If I click here, I can see if it's okay, maybe that's not a good one to look at. Let's look at Myriad Pro. So if I click on here, I can look at, I can make these bold, italic, I can make it bold, italic, I can change it up. I can change the size of it right here. Here I can change the orientation. I'm going to put it on left orientation just to make it easy. So since I've got my since I've got my text tool, I'm going to go ahead and want to drag and drop a box. This is going to be the size that I'm going to be able to put my text on the inside. So for this one, since we're doing Barbara Kruger, we're going to want to use a specific type of text, and that's going to be the Futura. So you'll want to scroll down until you see Futura, which is right here. I'm going to click on that. And then I want to make it bold. So here I'm going to go to that pull down menu and I'm going to make it bold. I want my letters to be white, so I'm going to need to make sure that my white is selected. So if I go over here to where these colors are, I click on the color. I can go ahead and put that white in there and drag it on there. So right now you should hopefully have a quote that you're going to want to add to your image, something funny or something thought-provoking. So I've got kind of a thoughtful look on my face right here. So I always like the quote, ignorance is bliss. So I think I'm going to change it. I'm going to make it consciousness is bliss, because I think it's good to be awake and know what's going on. So I'm just going to go ahead and type my first word in there. If I wanted to change the size of it, if it's too small or whatever, I just highlight, and then I can go up here and I can, change the size. That's really small. So I think I'm going to keep it at 200, and I'm going to make this a little bit smaller since it already fits my text. Now, if I want to say it's in the wrong place and I want to move it around, I can go up here to my move tool, click on the move tool. Keep in mind I need to be selected on this layer, and I can move this pretty much anywhere that I need it to be. So I think I'm going to leave it right here, cover up a little bit of my faux head, and then I'm going to add my next word. So I would recommend doing new layers for each word as of now. So if I click on the text box, I can make a new box, type my second word. I'm going to kind of move it a little bit. I can also use my left and right keys to move it if I want to just move it just a little bit. I think I'll just leave it right there. And I need one more, so I'm going to go back here to my text box and go ahead and put my last word. Consciousness is bliss. So if I wanted to move this consciousness, I need to be careful that I don't just try to move it right now, because if I try to move it right now, okay, it just did what I thought it wouldn't do, but that's cool. Somehow it just selected that layer. And normally, if I'm on this layer and then I try to move something up here, it won't let me, but yeah, new Photoshop, so new rules. Cool, I like that. So now we've got our text. I've got it lined up, and one of the last steps we'll need to do is we need to add that nice color that Barbara Kruger used. She always uses really bright red to highlight her text. So for this one, I'm going to click on my rectangle tool, which is going to be this little rectangle here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Now, whatever rectangle that I draw in here is going to draw the color inside the shape. So if I'm on white right now, it's going to make it completely white. So we want to get to a specific red, so I'm going to click on that. It opens up again. The specific red we're going to use is FF000. So if I go to this number sign down here, or hashtag for y'all millennials, click on this FF0000, and I've got the Barbara Kruger red. I click on that, and you'll see it's down here. Got nice Christmas colors going here. So with the rectangle tool, I'm going to click and I'm going to hold, and I'm just going to make that rectangle. Now, what becomes the problem here is that the rectangle, if I look at the layers, is on top of where my word is. So I need to make sure to drag this layer down and put it below, and you'll see that it lines up pretty well. So it looks good. I'm going to go to my next one, do the same thing. It's already underneath my is, so I'm just going to move it up there so I don't get confused. And then last one, bliss, I'm going to do the same thing. Rectangle 3, I'm going to put underneath there. I'm going to move this one a little bit because I think it needs a little bit more space. Cool. So if I'm happy where the spacing is, then I will also want to maybe think about combining these layers. So since I have, bliss, oops, I put the wrong one. All right. Since I have bliss with this rectangle, just do, consciousness here, bliss here. All right. So since I have consciousness and then this banner, and I want them to be together, so again, I'm going to try to combine those layers. So if I go down here and I push highlight that layer and then hold the shift key, I'll notice that these are highlighted. Hold control again, and then I can merge the layers. Where did it go? My layer thing has, okay, so for this one, I'm going to link the layers. So if I link the layers, that means they're linked together. So if I went over here to maybe move this around, you'll notice that they're moved around, that they go together. So you'll do that with these other layers too. So is, and it's, oops, wrong one. Is with its rectangle. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, link those layers. And then the last one, bliss, and it's rectangle. I'm going to go ahead and link those layers as well. So maybe with this bliss, I'm going to try to move it around a little bit. I don't know. Let's see. All right, so maybe I think that looks a little bit cool. I can go ahead and add some other things on here if I want to. So I'm going to show you one more thing. Barbara Kruger likes to sometimes add a certain filter onto her work. So I'm going to turn off some of these so I just see my picture for right now. So again, I'm just clicking on those little eyeballs. It doesn't delete them. Once I click the eyeball back, it'll put it back. So I think the last thing I'm going to do on my picture right here is I'm going to kind of invert some of the colors. So I'm going to go over here to my selection tool, or actually my marquee tool, I'm sorry. If I click on that, I've got different shapes that I could put in there, like rectangles or ellipses. It's up to you if you really want to mess with it or not. I'm going to keep it on the rectangle just for fun. And I'm going to go ahead and create a rectangle that cuts my picture kind of in half. So once this thing is selected, anything I do to this photo is now only going to be affected inside this selection. So the last thing I'm going to do is invert the black and white on this one. So if I go down here to, again, my adjustments, I can click on that and I'll bring up my full menu and I can click on invert right here. And then I've created an inversion. I think that looks pretty cool. I'm going to go back and go ahead and click on all my other layers. And hopefully, you know what, I'm going to put this just above my picture. So hopefully I've created something really cool. So consciousness is bliss. You need to be aware and think. So hopefully you've created something cool. And now is the time that we'll go ahead and save our work. So when we go to save our work, just like any other program, we'll go to File and Save. But there are going to be a couple different ways we're going to save the work. So right now you'll see the format says Photoshop, and we're going to save it as a Photoshop file. So I'm just going to go ahead and call this one Consciousness, I guess. And I'm going to save it as a Photoshop file. So I click Save. It says Maximize Compatibility. I'm going to say Yes. And then you notice in my folder over here, I've got my Adobe file. It's saved as a PSD. Now, if I'm finished with this and I don't need to work on it anymore, then I'm going to go ahead and save it also as a JPEG. JPEG is a picture file. So I'm going to go up here, click on File, Save As. And then here under Format, I'm going to click on that. And then I can go to JPEG. Don't worry about the other two types of JPEGs. Just click on the regular JPEG and then click Save. Now this is going to ask you what size of an image you would like to save. For this one, I'll just kind of go ahead and kick it up to the maximum. It's only 904K, so it's a pretty small file. And I'm going to click on OK. So you'll see that I have my two files over here. I've got the JPEG and I have the PSD file. If I open up the JPEG, it just opens up the photo. And it looks pretty cool. I like it. If I click on the Photoshop file, what's going to happen is it will actually open up the Photoshop. So I can continue editing, I can continue to work on it. You want to make sure that you always save whatever you're working on, you always save the PSD file. The only time we really save a JPEG is if we're finished or we're trying to kind of see what it'll look like as a photo. So those are the steps to create your Barbara Kruger inspired work. I hope that you come up with some cool ideas and you make something really cool. So get in it to win it, as I say, and make something cool. Go ahead and save it when you're done and turn it in. And hopefully you've learned a bit about the Photoshop. So if I want to get out of Photoshop, I can click here. You'll notice Photoshop is still open. So I can go up here to Photoshop and then quit. And then Photoshop will disappear from down here. Now I'm going to submit my work, and that's it. Have fun.